right. Stop me if you've heard this one before. But this really does feel like this is going to be the Bradley Beal week. I mean, to the point where, like, it's almost, let's start the baby office pool. Like, pick the day and the time that Bradley Beal's release is broken by Gambo or Shams or whoever's going to break it. It feels like this is the week for it to happen. I think we all would have said last week would have been the week for it to happen too. But it am I wrong? Is it feel? Would you be shocked if we got to the end of this week and there was still no resolution on this, or is this the week for it to get finished?
No, because this is just the last thing that needs to happen for me to be completely. I'm taking this personally, of course. Yeah, me. This is the last week for me and everyone listening, and you and Mitch, to be absolved of this basketball season once and for all. Like, this is the last thing. Once Brad's situation is done, we can finally just move on from last season and the last couple of years and all this nonsense that I've been telling a lot of people. Like, this was a very taxing season to cover.
I'm sure.
For you guys, for me too. Like, I could not wait for late July when we were finally, like, just the season's over, the off season's over, I love basketball more than anyone, but it's time to disconnect a bit. And this is like the last move that has to happen.
Yeah.
And so part of me is like, it's never going to happen. Just like we can never get rid of this.
We can't end this season.
We can't get rid of it just yet. But no, it feels like the middle of this week for sure. Tuesday's the date, right? That's the date.
So that's the latest in all of this. And yes, Tuesday is the date. This was according to Mark Stein over the weekend. And I'll just read you what he wrote from his Mark Stein Substack. Per him, why is Beal's highly anticipated buyout from Phoenix and subsequent foray into free agency unfolding so slowly? The Stein line has identified one potential snag. League sources say Beal's current contract stipulates that he is owed a 25% advanced payment on his 2025-26 salary on July 15th, as in tomorrow. The early payment is valued at more than $13 million. Sources say that Beal will ultimately get that amount no matter how his eventual exit from the Suns plays out. It is believed that he could elect to wait for that payment to go through before proceeding with his departure from the desert. So the amount he's owed doesn't change. It's just tomorrow he gets a little advance of that payment. He gets, 25% of it or whatever that comes out to. And that he could just be simply waiting on that to happen, and then he'll say, yes. Does this snag make sense to you, Mr. Kellan Olson?
It does. I think that what we were dealing with here in the Brad situation was always going to be, this is going to operate through him, whether you like it or not. You need to have him agree to a trade, or you need to have him agree to a buyout. Both of those require the word agree. He needs to agree. And if he says, yeah, I'll do it, but we need to wait until this date to make sure I get this money now, then you have to wait. And he's in a situation now where, due to the timing of this, maybe this is always going to be the time when it was going to get done. But regardless, like, there really isn't much money left. Like, the Clippers are the team that still makes the most sense for him. They can offer him a little over $5 million a year. That is not the number that we were talking about just a few weeks ago, a few months ago, and like we were like, oh yeah, he'll get the full mid-level from someone. That has not happened, and it wasn't really ever going to happen, if I'm being honest. So now he's in a situation where he's got to get that money somewhere. This is the way for him to get it. So you add up that, what is it, 13?
13, yeah.
13, yeah, that 13 out of that 5, there's your 18. So he's got a little bit of that money back, and the buyout starts to add up a little bit more in terms of him getting some of the money back on top of, the rest of the money that he is going to get.
And then the question fast forwards to, and this is where I've really started to temper my expectations a little bit here, and I don't know whether this is right or wrong of me to do this, but what happens to the Suns after the Bradley Beal release happens? Is there going to be, they'll immediately plummet under the aprons. They'll immediately be eligible to do other things if they want to, aggregate salary. Certainly they'll have a roster spot. Theoretically, they'll have 2 roster spots because Kobe Bryant is on a 2-way. So they could, go out and in theory, add a couple veteran minimum guys, and they probably will do so. I know Gambo on his Twitter account suggests that a point guard could be somewhere in the queue if they go out and do something with Bradley Beal. But in terms of what I don't know, Kellan, is whether I should be expecting, once they're free to aggregate salaries, Should I be expecting an aggregation of salaries? Should I be expecting a Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards, some sort of combination to bring in? And I don't know. I don't. Or are they just going to go sign a guy to the veterans minimum and keep everything exactly the same and just keep this roster completely out of balance going into the season?
I think it's the big question for sure. Shout out to David, also known as the 4-Point Play on Suns Twitter. He's been on there forever. He's our Empire of the Suns Australian correspondent. He's done great work for a really long time. He does all the cap minutia, that kind of thing. And what he was pointing out yesterday is that if you approximate and figure out these numbers as close as you can, if they were to get this deal done with Beal, the waive and stretch, and then they were to add one more player on the minimum, they would just be like a hair under the luxury tax, like a hair, like really like $50,000, like that close under the luxury tax, which begs the question of if that is by design especially, and then they would be done doing moves, or at least doing moves that would give them any more money. The extreme irony is that they are unlocking the ability to take on more money in a trade.
Right.
Well, that is part of what they're doing by getting out of the apron, is unlocking all of these restrictions, and yet they've found a way for a new restriction to be in place, even though that restriction is gone. And something we're going to be talking about a lot, I imagine, when this happens at some point this week and getting after, is you look at the motivation for doing all of these things. Obviously, get out of the apron, the frozen draft picks, potentially moving in the first round, bad business. The tax thing is a real thing here. Don't get me wrong, because something that we talked about a lot the last couple of years is that the tax has what's called a repeater. And that means it's going to punish you and hammer you more and more the longer you are in the tax. The Warriors with Joe Lacob learned this the hard way, where you remember there was that Kelly Oubre trade that they did where like the amount of luxury tax money that they were paying extra for
I wish I
was
could
like
remember the numbers.
$80 million or something just by adding a guy that made 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
That's how insane the multipliers get, and the Suns are trending in that sort of direction. So if they duck under a year, duck under a couple of years, it will really help them. And then, for a year, not have to pay an extra $200+ million for a team that is probably not going to win 35 games. That part helps too. Is that what Suns fans want to hear?
No. But it's also, you know what? I think there are some Suns fans who do want to hear that.
Okay.
I think there are some Suns fans who I don't think they're like, I know Matt Ishbia has said time and time again, people don't care about the tax. They don't care about aprons. They don't care about that stuff. Well, they do care when your hands are tied. They do care when you lack the flexibility. You can't go sign that guy. Why not? Well, because of the tax. You can't go sign that guy. Why not? Well, because of the apron. Well, then they do care. Then I think they care very much when they're told the why you're not able to just do whatever you want willy-nilly when it comes to building your basketball team. And so I think the tax, I think getting under there and staying under there is starting to feel more and more like the motivation to do this and just stay there for a year or two to really reset things. It's not going to make for a better roster. I have a hard time envisioning you get under the tax, you waive and stretch Bradley Beal, and what you're going to tell me the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cobble together Grayson Allen and Nick Richards' contract and you're going to go make another move. You just got here. Don't you want to stay for a little bit and just allow things to settle and be for a while?
And you can still trade those guys and still remain under the tax, to be clear. But it's just, if there's the perfect offer out there, but you're taking on $75,000 more dollars, that is a difference the Suns can't afford right now.
Yeah, because you just continue becoming a repeater in that tax scenario. And I would think they need to break that streak for
There's always a price. It gets there for everyone, even the people that make billions and billions of dollars. It's always there eventually.
We'll see if the Bradley. I think it's going to happen this week, but then I thought it was going to happen last week too, when it didn't.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.